Yo, yo, yo. What up, y'all? I'm gonna hide that real quick. Soon we'll talk about that. What's up, everybody? It's Wednesday. It's September 13th. It's about 4:17, and we're about to cover some NFL news up in here. There definitely was some stuff that came up, and I think we should, it's worth covering. So after we do our diligence and look through the news and any injuries and practice stuff from today, then we can get on to some fun stuff, kind of what you saw there. So, first things first, Arizona Cardinals. James Conner, calf, was limited in today's practice. Just go ahead and lower this, actually. Shit, I didn't even realize the music was still popping off. All right, we Gucci. James Conner was limited today with a calf in today's practice. That's something to be monitored. Calves are never just kind of a write-offable injury. You always want to keep your eye on them. Not that any injuries are just write-offable, but calves tend to bother me a little bit more than, say, like an ankle would, or depending on the position, obviously. And like hamstrings obviously are similar to calves. Like those could lead to worse injuries. At least calves, we know, are linked to like Achilles ruptures and stuff like that. So that's my one worry when we talk about a calf injury. So keep an eye on that. Kelvin Beachum was limited, and then Javonte Moffat. All right, moving on to Atlanta Falcons. This is pretty significant. Cordell P. Thigh was a full participant in practice today. Patterson was inactive for week 1, obviously, and because he was questionable with that thigh injury. So that is pretty significant only if your name is Tyler Algier. I would say Bijan's job is safe for sure. He's their stud, but I don't know. Maybe he eats into some of Tyler Algier's carries. I don't know how good Cordell P is. He clearly made the roster, right? So like that means he's good enough to play in the NFL for sure and be on an active roster, be in the rotation on a team that utilizes running backs heavily. So is that somebody, I don't know if you're rushing to go pick up Cordell P. I just think the big takeaway is you're maybe tempering your expectations if you have Tyler Algier this week, even though he's coming off of a fantastic week. We saw what he did. He had 2 touchdowns and like damn near like 80 plus yards or something like that. So, excuse me. I think that's the most significant thing about this reporting. About this report, tight end Jonnu Smith didn't participate. He was resting. Same with D end Calais Campbell and cornerback Jeff Okuda. All right, cool. They signed somebody from the practice squad. Baltimore Ravens. This is good news for anybody who's a Mark Andrews owner. So today, Mark Andrews' quad was limited in practice, but he did miss week 1 due to that injury. So, excuse me. He needs to get back on the field soon. You hope that he gets back on the field soon. The Baltimore Ravens need him, even though they won last week, and you'd want him if you're someone who drafted him that high, because he went in like the 3rd or 4th round, unless he slipped a little bit. So you want him out on the field, obviously. Maybe you were desperate last week and you played like a Cole Kmet or a Tyler Higbee or, some other guys that just didn't really pay off as much as you would have liked. It's tight end. Pat Fryermuth only caught that 1 touchdown. It's tight end, right? It's a pretty rough landscape when you're talking about just that position overall. And we didn't even see Kelsey, which is what's crazy this week, is that that we kind of forgot about tight ends simply because Kelsey and Andrews weren't there. I know Kittle kind of had a decent showing, but even he didn't really have like a pop-off week this week. So want to see him back on the field, monitor that, but it's good news that he's returning to practice, even if it's at a limited fashion. I won't even talk about maybe some of these other guys, except for the OT, Ronnie Staley. He didn't practice with a knee. And then their center, Tyler Linderbaum, also didn't practice with a knee. So that's pretty significant. 2 of their offensive linemen, and 2 really important offensive linemen at that, are not practicing today. So it's Ravens story, right? They're one of those teams that their injuries come in bunches. And these aren't super serious yet, but they lost J.K. Dobbins, right? And if they lose any more guys, even if it's, a couple offensive linemen, especially maybe if it's a couple offensive linemen in this case, because, they need their offensive line to protect Lamar, first and foremost, for them to do anything and have any chance of success. So this is significant in that respect. I hope they come back to practice tomorrow. That's when we'll really know if there's kind of like warning signs here, because they're going into, let's see, who are the Ravens playing this week? So Ravens are going into this weekend playing my Bengals. So that's going to be a tough matchup for them. So, Bengals defense, we got a pretty solid squad. So I think if we're not going to see two of their offensive linemen in terms of Baltimore starters, that could be a little rough for that squad that day, for Lamar Jackson and company. And a couple of their secondary also banged up, not good. Carolina Panthers. Looks like left guard Brady Christensen, biceps was placed on injury reserve. That's pretty significant. Cornerback J.C. Horn suffered a serious and freak hamstring injury that may require surgery. Holy shit. And that IR is an option for Horn. So, yeah, I mean, if it's serious and freak and so head coach Frank Reich announced that today. So if it's serious and freak, I don't know if it's just IR that's an option for him. I mean, if he needs surgery, like his season might just straight be over. So we'll have to see. It may require surgery. So I guess they're just saying, like, if it doesn't, maybe he goes on IR. But if it does, I think you shut him down for the season. There's no chance you bring him back. He's their cornerback, though. It's not like they had a great secondary or anything like that, but they signed Tariq Cohen off the practice squad. That might be significant. He's coming off of that ACL. He could get worked into this backfield. We know he's dynamic, so keep an eye on Tariq Cohen. We might look into that more in a little bit. Roster cuts doesn't matter to me right now. Sorry, Spence Brown. Chicago Bears. Cornerback Kyler Gordon Hand is not expected to practice today. Okay. Cincinnati Bengals. There at least seems like there's a lot to report here. At least there's a few names. We have Joe Burrow, calf, who was a full participant in practice today. Love to see that. That was part of why I feel he just came out slow this year, similar to last year, is that he just didn't practice. He didn't play in preseason. He was out all preseason essentially with that calf, and now he's back. Apparently his calf feels better. That's good news. He was full participant in practice, so that means, he's working with his team, he's getting chemistry down, he's getting timing down, all that stuff. Love to hear it. And that, is going to have pretty quick returns. I believe that just this 1 week of practice going into this game, because we have to remember, he wasn't practicing before last week's opener. He barely even saw the field until like the Friday before that game. So now that he's got a full week of practice under him, I believe we'll see a different Joe Burrow, one who's what we've seen in, basically what we know of him, who's awesome, baby goat, people call him, other than maybe Patty Mahomes. We're going to see that now. So I think we see closer to that. Chris Evans, running back, hamstring was limited. I think that just means you see more of, Mixon, but also, oh God, I can't remember this guy's name. And he's not even fantasy relevant, but I have to bring him up. Travion Williams. You're not going and picking this guy up, but he's going to see a little bit more work if Chris Evans can't go, to spell Joe Mixon a little bit. So if you're in like super deep leagues, I wouldn't do this, but maybe Travion Williams is a sneaky stash. But yeah. A couple defenders were limited. Anyways, Dallas Cowboys. Brandon Cooks. This is the big injury report from Dallas today. Brandon Cooks, wide receiver, knee, did not practice. Let's actually see if we can find a little bit more about that, because this could be troublesome. All right, so NBC Pro Football Talk says Cowboys starting left guard Tyler Smith. Oh, okay. Well, this is Tyler Smith. He has obviously been out, but they didn't seem to need him. Brandon Cooks has a knee injury that kept him out Wednesday. Cooks played 34 of the 58 snaps in his Cowboys debut and caught 2 passes for 22 yards. So, like, he wasn't great. You probably were really pissed. Absolutely. If you played Brandon Cooks this this last week. And now I just think you just have to bench him. Because even if he plays, he didn't practice today, and he might be limited tomorrow, but this isn't a good sign. And so I think you're really worried if you're a Brandon Cooks owner. You're not playing him, but you're holding on to him, maybe that in hopes that he gets healthy and becomes a big part of this team because he's a burner. That's what he's known to do. That's what they want him to do. But this is a very defensive-oriented team. They don't necessarily want Dak P to be throwing 30-plus times a game. So even then, Brandon Cooks, in my mind, is just risky to hold on to. He might just be burning a spot on your roster and just never truly be reliable each and every week. So, but I've always been kind of a Brandon Cooks like hater in a way. Not that he's a bad player, but he's just super. It depends on the situation. He's not had great quarterbacks in the past, except for Matt Stafford. But like, I just never truly trusted him. He's just always been inconsistent in my mind. Anyways, Denver Broncos, Jerry Jeudy hamstring injury will be handled cautiously, says Sean Payton. I'm glad to hear that. You don't want anyone to rush back off a hamstring. The chances of re-aggravating that injury, that setback is worse than any setback you could probably have when you're talking about an injury. Especially soft tissue like that, especially with a burner, a wide receiver like Jerry Jeudy, who his whole gag is like route running, precise, route running and super quick down the field yards after catch. So I'm glad they're taking their time with him. Lil Jordan Humphrey, I love how he actually I think he got a touchdown on Sunday, which is awesome. I love that guy. Moving on to Detroit Lions. Offensive tackle Taylor Decker ankle did not practice in Tuesday's estimated report. Okay, I mean that's an OT. That's an offensive tackle. Hopefully he can come back. Taylor Decker, starter. Just make sure that temper your expectations on that offensive line, I guess. Houston Texans, Noah Brown groin will be placed on injury reserve. So this kind of sucks. I mean, this super sucks actually, because Noah Brown was somebody who came over from Dallas along with Dalton Schultz in that trade, and he essentially is one of their starters, and now he's going on injury reserve with this groin. He wasn't super fantasy relevant. He actually came out this week and had like a few targets that were, might have warranted giving him some attention fantasy wise, but at this point I don't see how he's even you're dropping him obviously, unless you have an IR spot that you just want to put him on, but that's rough. John Mechie the third was limited hamstring. Damn, so that's 2 wide receivers on this team that one is gone, at least for the foreseeable future, and one was limited, John Mechie. So, man, the Houston Texans, they're not going to be a good team. I think you start whatever defense they're playing against this week. Let's see. What is Houston Texans schedule? So they're playing the Colts. Oh, my gosh. And Anthony Richardson might not be healthy. Okay, I might be jumping the gun here. Let's I'll talk about that when we get to it. So they're looking banged up. They placed another guy, a defensive tackle, Hassan Ridgeway, on IR. So this is just bad news. It looks like there's a lot of injuries coming out of Houston, and they're already not like a great team. So they definitely had to sign some guys up from the practice squad to build in that depth from guys that they lost. Indianapolis Colts, Zach Moss, who missed week 1 with a forearm injury, is progressing really well. Head coach Shane Steichen told reporters on Wednesday, and Moss was a full participant in practice. So that's pretty sick, actually, but only if you're a Zach Moss owner, or if you are Zach Moss or the Indianapolis Colts, because you're definitely pissed about it if you're a Deion Jackson owner, even though he didn't do that great. Evan Hull is out, I believe, for the year, with at least not for the year, but let's actually, what was the report on Evan Hull. I totally forgot. Come on, dude. Evan Hull is put on IR. That's right. So he's on IR. He is done for the foreseeable future. So that's why this is a big deal for Zach Moss to come back at this time. They need him to be a part of this offense. I mean, they wanted him to be kind of that leader in that backfield already, especially maybe if Deion Jackson, like, they saw enough from him and he didn't really put it all together, because Evan Hull looks better than him every time he touches the ball, and now Evan Hull's gone. So Zach Moss is intriguing. If he's out there, I would definitely say stash him on your team. I don't know if you play him this week. He's an intriguing play this week, though, if you're desperate. I actually do think he's somebody here. Let's just see. I'm sure somebody has him already, but I'm just curious. This is my main league. If Moss somebody has him. So he's for sure pick upable. I don't know if he's owned in every single league. If he's not, if you see him on the waiver wire, like I said, just stash him. He's potentially a desperate play, desperation play. So, that's kind of what's going on there. They signed Jake Funk from the practice squad as a depth move, and that's fine. Jake Funk's not going to get anywhere near that backfield anywhere soon, at least. So, in any kind of significant way. So Jacksonville Jaguars, their offensive guard Brandon Scherf did not practice today with an ankle. So that could be something, outside guard, I think is what that is. OG. I actually don't know what that is. Kansas City Chiefs. Injuries. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, illness, won't practice today. So he's just irrelevant. We don't even really care about him. Sorry, Clyde. Travis Kelce, tight end, knee was limited. So this is something that we can actually look into. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who are interested in this particular person. I am myself. I don't have him, but I am still interested just because he's like a key to that offense. And let's just see. I don't care about Taylor Swift and Kelce. Come on, y'all. So Kansas City might be getting two of their best three players back. Kelce, the Chiefs' primary pass catcher, suffered a hyperextended knee during last practice last Tuesday. That required a report. Oh, wow. Wait, a reported 45 cc of blood to be drained from the area in its aftermath? Holy cow, I didn't even know that. Kansas City initially feared that the injury was much more serious than a bone bruise, for sure, but subsequent testing revealed later that the ailment turned out to be relatively minor in nature, which is why he obviously practiced in a limited fashion today. Kelce's knee didn't respond well to enough treatment in time for the club's Thursday night opener against Detroit. But now, obviously he sat last week. Appearing this week with his brother, Jason Kelce provided an update on how things are going in his injury rehab, saying he felt like a quote-unquote asshole for not being available to begin the season. The 33-year-old explained that he planted his foot on the ground and suffered the hyperextension thereafter. Here's more from Kelce on the show. Seriously though, I did feel like an asshole for not being out there on week 1. I know you've got to be very fortunate to play this game. I take a lot of this to heart. Being able to be out there every single week. You were kind of talking about the toughness rating on Madden. I love to put that on my shoulders, on my resume, that I make myself available every single week. And that last practice going into that first game, got a little lazy on some of my movement, and sure enough, offed myself and couldn't play in that first game. So that's Kelce talking about himself, essentially. Speaking to the media on Monday via Zoom, Chiefs head coach Andy Reid said Kelce was progressing and getting better as time passed. All right, so I want to see, like, I don't know. I heard he was like doing jumping jacks or like jumping up and down and shit. Let's see that. Like, do they have any videos of this? Anyways, the report is, and I'm trying to find this report, but I heard from, I believe, like Adam Schefter or somebody on like Twitter, now X, or maybe it was NFL Live, I don't remember, but he was looking good in practice. He's clearly expected to return. Chris Jones is expected to return to practice, but the outlook, at least for Travis Kelce, is looking positive for week 2 and him being able to play. So we'll keep an eye on that. It's only Wednesday. I think tomorrow's practice report is really the most definitive one. That kind of gives us a better indication. We'll see if he's worked into a more than just a limited fashion. But I could see him going, especially if they are like saying that this is not a problem. And again, you have to take things with grains of salt. So sometimes it's a little bit of coach speak. Maybe they just want to be a little vague at this point in time because they don't want the opposing team to feel like they don't have to prepare for Travis Kelce. You obviously want them to go through the motions of doing that, even if he's not going to go. So anyways, other news, Chris Jones will return to practice, and he's expected to play on Sunday. Okay, yeah, so cool. Yeah, he signed that 1-year deal. I think we covered this, but basically it's just, let's actually look at the details. I think we covered it, but the details weren't out yet. The details were not clear. And let's actually see. Okay, so now the details are out. Includes roughly $5 million in incentives, 1-year deal that is worth up to $25 million. So it's probably 20 base. Maybe there's like a $12 million guarantee, maybe $5 million signing bonus. Maybe that's like swapped around. I don't know the details. It's just a 1-year deal, but typically you see a signing bonus, and then obviously the incentives is up to $5 million is nice. Hopefully he gets those. I think he deserves them. Oh, okay, here we go. So the $19.5 million base salary he was already set to make, minus the $1.08 million game check he missed from week 1, but has the chance to make another successful game. Okay, wait, make more. So he still ate that $1 million, but hopefully will make it up in incentives. This is interesting. Details are incentives as follows. $1 million for 35% playing time. Another $1 million for 50% playing time. $1.25 million for 10 sacks. Another $500K for 15 sacks. Okay. $1 million for first team All Pro and Super Bowl. Oh, interesting. So you have to also get to the Super Bowl though appearance, and then $2 million for defensive player of the year and Super Bowl win. Wow. So, that's interesting. I guess he's got $3 million if they win the Super Bowl coming. He's got $1 million if they just get there. Another okay, so that's some incentives. All right, that's cool. I guess it's just 1 year. He's saying he doesn't want to necessarily be there long term. Maybe he thinks their window's closing. Maybe he sees writing on the wall with Kelce potentially and knows that because he's in that locker room, that Kelce is like kind of the glue guy on that team. And if he goes, then that team is in major trouble. That said, I think it's interesting. I don't know if it's a good idea for him to do it or not. On one hand, yeah, he opens himself up to be a free agent next year. I don't know if they can slap a franchise tag on him or not, but he's only under contract for 1 year. If he doesn't necessarily want to, like, if he, I don't know. I mean, So we'll just leave it at that. He knows what he's doing, I think. Las Vegas Raiders wide receiver Jacoby Myers remains in the concussion protocol, says Josh McDaniels, according to Paul Gutierrez. So Jacoby Myers was that guy. He was having a great game. If you were watching that game, he looked really solid. He looked like he was one of Jimmy G's top targets. And when he got cracked over the middle of the field and had to get taken out of the game, he actually walked off, thankfully, on his own power. But it was still a scary hit. And like, come on, dude. The guy who hit him, I don't want to call him his name out or anything like that. You can go watch the tape. But he like got up and was like, like talking shit and was like, yeah, man, I cracked you. It's like, bro, you just almost like annihilated this person's career. Do you feel good about that? Like, we saw what happened with DeMar Hamlin. We should all think that we want to see less of those types of hits, right? Like, I don't want to see those types of hits. I don't want to see a guy sitting on the ground, like knocked the fuck out, and all of the trainers and training, the training and personal staff come onto the field and have to like, tend to him medically, and all the players are taking knees, and that guy who laid the hit feels like an idiot now because he's fucking, the guy's not getting up. It's like, dude, is that truly what you wanted? Like, make a solid hit. Sure, I'll take solid hits. I mean, it's a violent sport. You gotta crack some dudes every now and then. But we're not trying to kill anybody here, or like give them permanent brain damage, right? Like, so, that's that. Hate to see it. Hope Jacoby Myers has a quick recovery, but he's remaining in the concussion protocol right now. He's still in it, and I don't know if we're going to see him this week. That's for sure. And, that would just be too soon. And I think we might not see him hopefully we see him that next week, depending on how everything goes with his recovery. But just like I said, he was coming out pretty strong week 1 with Jimmy G, and was looking to be like one of his top targets alongside Devontae Adams, of course. But yeah, sucks. So they signed a couple guys. Los Angeles Chargers. They signed Jarrett Patterson from the practice squad and an outside linebacker, Ty Shelby. So this is significant because they lost. They didn't lose Eckler, but he is hobbled. So right now, other news, Eckler kind of jumped the gun there, but this is the report. Will miss practice today while he attends the funeral of his agent. Whoa, what the hell? I did not know. I just saw that he missed practice. I didn't even realize the funeral of his agent, Cameron Weiss. What the hell happened there? That's crazy. Who else dead at 38? What the hell happened? Jeez. Sorry to bring the mood down, but I'm just curious as to what the hell happened. Oh, wow. Lengthy battle with cancer. That's really sad. Damn. Well, prayers out to Cameron Weiss's family and Austin Eckler and his family and just everybody who Cameron Weiss, knew and loved. That's really unfortunate. But, yeah, so you don't want to say there's a silver lining here with stuff like this, but at least it wasn't an injury. Thank goodness he's just okay and he's missing it due to personal reasons, or at least something like this, which is obviously not good, but he's not hurt himself. So, but they still signed Jarrett Patterson. So that's something that we'll just keep an eye on. Austin Eckler, I imagine maybe he'll take some time, maybe another day or two to, be with his family and stuff and maybe be there for Cameron Weiss's family. But, my guess is that he still plays this week and probably is, wanting to go out there and, basically lay it all out on the field. We've seen athletes sort of respond to stuff like this with, with sort of the, you're encouraged. They're basically like meeting the adversity head on, right? They're inspired almost and to go out and play a game, maybe in this person's honor or whatever it may be. So, yeah, we'll keep an eye on that. Los Angeles Rams, they placed QB Stetson Bennett on injury reserve. I believe he was on their practice squad. I don't know if he was even their backup, but just that's something they did. Miami Dolphins, Raheem Mostert, RB knee, did not practice today. And then Jalen Waddle, oblique, was also limited, which he was dealing with an abdomen situation. Obviously, it's the oblique specifically last week and still played and looked great. So I think this is more like a maintenance situation with him. Clearly, it's still not 100%, but it's something he can play through. So I think you still are fine with Jalen Waddle. Raheem Mostert, on the other hand, I'm a little bit worried. I mean, he didn't practice. So let's actually look into it. So Raheem Mostert, will he play in week 2? Sports Illustrated asks. On the day pro backle Teron Armstead returned to practice, the Miami Dolphins had 2 names on their injury report. Running back Raheem Mostert was the one player who did not practice Wednesday, missing the session because of a knee injury. Mostert played 49 snaps in the 36-34 victory against the Chargers on Sunday, and there were no Dolphin injuries reported in the press box. But Mostert has had knee injuries in the past, missing the Houston game last November and spending a few weeks on the injury report because of a knee problem. The Dolphins already are shorthanded at running back with Jeff Wilson on injury reserve, and the other 3 players on at the position being Salvon Ahmed and rookies Devon Achane and Chris Brooks. Achane was inactive last week against the Chargers, and Brooks only played on special teams. Armstead was among 4 players listed as limited in practice Wednesday, along with so the real takeaway here, at least with the running back situation, with Mostert being out of practice, they signed some depth. Actually, I don't even think they signed depth. They didn't bring anybody up from the practice squad. So that might be an indication that they don't think this is super serious. He's had knee injuries in the past. Maybe this is just a moment where they want to be safe with him. And we'll take a look at this tomorrow. I think tomorrow, again, Thursday practices are a big indicator whether a player is actually going to carry on and, be strong and ready to go for the Sunday, unless it's like a super game time decision. But Thursday practices are pretty significant for that respect. And so we'll see what happens. I am worried about it. I'm somebody who I'm actually stashing A-Chain, so not that I hope Raheem doesn't play. I just think that if there's an opportunity for A-Chain to get a little bit more work, he's actually coming back in from a shoulder injury. But it looks like he's practicing in full now. He's clearly not popping up on the injury report, at least. So maybe there's a moment now, an opportunity for A-Chain, that young rookie prospect, to get some work in this offense this week, potentially. So we'll see. Like we mentioned in that article, Teron Armstead return to practice and was limited. And then Jalen Waddle. So Minnesota Vikings injuries. Garrett Bradbury, cornerback, has been ruled out of Thursday night's game versus the Philadelphia Eagles. And then OT, Christian Darrisaw, ankle is questionable, and a questionable outside linebacker. So nothing crazy here. Just the centers being ruled out. I think that affects the game in a negative way, obviously, for the Vikings. And you might be hesitant to maybe play like an Alexander Madison because that is already a tough matchup in terms of the Philadelphia Eagles defense. They held Ramondre Stevenson and Zeke to, I think, like no touchdowns and some pretty low yardage. If you want to look at that box score. Philadelphia Eagles. Oops. Player stats. So the Patriots only had, barely 70 yards rushing as a team. So the Eagles are a pretty stout rushing defense. So I would be hesitant to play Alexander Madison. I would be hesitant to play really just any of that run game on the Viking side. I mean, really, it's only Alexander Madison, right? That's the only player you're probably even thinking about playing there. So he's very questionable. He's probably a sit for me this week, just based off that and matchup. But that should be a good game. I think that should be a good game because they're going to have to throw a lot. And so JJ's going to eat. And I think on the other side of the ball, they're going to have to throw a lot too. So AJ Brown's going to eat. Devontae Smith is going to eat. Hawk is probably going to eat too. So that's going to be a high flying game, I believe. Hopefully. New England Patriots. Wide receiver Devontae Parker, knee, was listed as a limited participant in practice today. So that's good. At least for this team in general. Not a lot of them are really fantasy relevant in terms of wide receivers, but at least this helps maybe open up the field a little bit more for like Hunter Henry and hopefully just for the run game as well, because we saw, at least it was a tough matchup, sure, against the Eagles, but we didn't see the New England Patriots run the ball particularly well last week. Let's just go back to that box score here. They gave Zeke 7 carries. He actually looked like the better back. And then Ramondre had 12. Maybe he was still a little slow because he, was coming off that illness, recovering from that or whatever. But it didn't look good. It didn't look good. And you definitely, were a little worried about Ramondre at least. I know my brother was. He still won the game though, by the way. My team did not show up last week. We don't have to talk about it. Actually, we will talk about it. It is relevant to some degree. And don't really want to talk about anything else on the Patriots. They signed Ian Book from the practice squad, probably just for some depth, I think. I don't know why. Maybe there's... I don't know what's going on with the quarterback squad, but who knows. New Orleans Saints. Wide receiver Lynn Bowden was signed from the practice squad. They also signed a tight end, Michael Jacobson. They also signed... wow, they signed a bunch of dudes. I don't know if... Okay, so they put... Peyton Turner, defensive end, on the injury reserve. They also put linebacker Ryan Conley on injury reserve. Okay, so that explains at least those signings there. But Yeah, okay, interesting. New York Giants. Darren Waller, hamstring, won't practice as part of his scheduled rest day. So he didn't really get a super lot of snaps on the game on Sunday. I think it's because he's been dealing with his hamstring. He practiced limited fashion last week. This is kind of a maintenance day for him. I'm fine with this. If something crops up in tomorrow's practice, then we'll be a little worried. But I think this is normal for a guy like him. I mean, he's a veteran player. Usually veteran guys who are dealing with kind of like these lingering ailments typically get a rest day for maintenance anyways. And again, like they didn't list this as the maintenance rest day for Mostert earlier with the knee, but because they didn't necessarily like sound the alarm and make it seem like he was going to miss extended time, the injuries, yeah, seriously. Yeah, Mr. Midnight, exactly, dude. The injuries are already piling up, bro. It's so rough. But hopefully they just rewrite, make some script rewrites or whatever they have to do to walk away from the injury storyline. We don't want to see any more injuries, bro. Oh, dude, you drafted Kupp? That's so shitty, brother. That's so I feel you. I hope you got Nakua. I hope you got Puka. You know what I mean? Because that's he's basically slotting in as the Kupp role. But if you didn't snag him this week in the waiver fiasco, in the waiver rush, then I feel bad. But yeah, man, that's rough. Hopefully you have some other wide receiver depth that can help you at least last these few weeks while Kupp is on the IR. We still don't know how long he's going to be out for. Like, he could end up going past the 4 weeks of IR, right? Oh, you got Atwell? Okay, that's not terrible. That's actually not bad. Tutu's fine too. I mean, we saw Stafford throw like 40 plus times or some shit. Like, they're going to throw a bunch. So, yeah, I think Atwell's going to get enough targets to be relevant as well, at least until Kupp comes back, and Kupp's, yeah, minimum 4 weeks out. So, but yeah, Darren Waller, dude, hopefully. Darren Waller won't practice today, like we said. Andrew Thomas, hamstring, won't practice as well. So that's their left tackle. And then their DB, Amani I'll just say that, was taken to the Hackensack Medical Center. Holy shit, after suffering a neck injury in practice. Oh, no. The results of the evaluation testing were negative, and he was cleared to return to the team's facility. So that's a little scary. Damn. Okay, well, hopefully Amani O is okay. But you never like to hear about neck injuries, especially, you know, any position really, but that's scary. Okay, we'll keep an eye on that. Prayers up for that guy. New York Jets. Running back Breece Hall knee was limited in today's practice. I think that's not a problem. You know, that's no indication of like a setback. I think if there was a setback, we would have heard about it. He looked great on the 2 carries that he got. He got go for 100 yards. Dude, he looked insane. It was insane. So I think this is just part of the normal routine of working him back from that ACL from last year. And so you're fine with Breece Hall again this week. I think actually you're starting Breece Hall more confidently than you're starting Dalvin Cook this week. If for some reason you have both of those guys, remember all offseason I was saying, yeah, draft Dalvin Cook so you can basically play him for the first few weeks while Breece is getting worked back into the mix, slowly. But it seems like even while Breece is slowly working back in the mix, he's like, nah, screw that, y'all. Like, I'll break one off for 80 yards on 1 carry. You know what I mean? I'll do 2 carries for 108 yards or whatever it was. Like, insane. So he'll be fine this week. Dwayne Brown, shoulder was limited. He's their left tackle. And then right tackle Mekhi Becton, knee was also limited. So obviously the big story out of the New York Jets this week is the Aaron Rodgers news. That's really shitty. But as long as their offensive line stays relatively intact and they can lean on the run game like they did in the majority of that game, because Aaron went down early, I think this team will win a bunch of games. They might even push, not for the division, but definitely for a wild card spot in the AFC. And yeah, but that means that they could still be fantasy relevant. The run game is more exciting to me than the pass game at this point. So that includes Breece Hall, that includes Dalvin Cook. And I'm a little worried about like all the other guys like Lazard, probably droppable. And, I saw a bunch of people drop him actually over this last waiver period. And Garrett Wilson, you're just hanging on for dear life, hoping that, Garrett Wilson can just catch at least one touchdown per game. That because he's not going to get a lot of volume. They're not going to pass it a bunch. He needs to basically get that touchdown to be relevant. That touchdown saved his night, and it was insane. Let's actually watch a replay of that touchdown. Oh my gosh. If you weren't able to see it, it was actually insane. What's going on here? Okay. He literally plays defense. So here, I'll make this full screen actually. So they'll probably make it a slow-mo for us in a little review. And the reason why it's muted is because I don't want to get DMCA'd for Joe Buck's audio. But okay, they're gonna show check this out, dude. That's a hard angle, but like he basically had to take the ball from the defender. Check this out. Boom. That's crazy. I mean, you can't expect him to do that every week, though. You know what I mean? Like, he can't do that every single week. But my goodness, is he a baller. So you're just holding on for dear life with Garrett Wilson. Philadelphia Eagles. Man, this one sucks. I saw this earlier today. And I know he was a really hot waiver pickup this week. I heard that he had sustained an injury during the game already. So that's why I kind of, at least for this week, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to go out and blow a whole bunch of fab or use a super high waiver priority pickup for him. I'll let other people pick him up because he's not going to play this week. Like, he's just not. So whatever waiver, whoever picked that guy up, he's not playable, right? So they basically wasted a week of a player when they could have maybe grabbed somebody who would have actually played, maybe like Tyler Algier, Kyron Williams, or, one of those other running backs, Gus Edwards, Justice Hill. All of those guys are going to play this weekend, right? They're going to play this week. Kenneth Gainwell, like, if you needed a guy, like, right, why are you, if you're picking up a running back off the waiver wire, chances are you need them to play for one reason or another, whether you are the Jonathan Taylor owners or, the J.K. Dobbins owners, or just a person who is maybe light on running back. Maybe you have some running backs who didn't pan out the way you thought they were going to, and you're kind of freaking out. That, you picked up Kenneth Gainwell essentially to help you in the short term, and he's not available in the short term. So that kind of, that's why I sagged off him a little bit in the waiver period, in this particular waiver period. Maybe he gets dropped again for some reason, and then you snag him up. Hopefully he comes back and is fine. His ribs heal, but that remains to be seen. Defensive tackle Fletcher Cox is also questionable with the ribs. Man, what's going on with Philly and ribs right now? That sucks. Keep an eye on that. Cornerback James Bradbury, concussion, is out. So an already pretty weak / depleted secondary is now even more depleted. So again, that just lends itself to the shootout with the Vikings this week, right? Tomorrow. So that we'll talk about actually tomorrow night's game ahead of tomorrow night. I think that actually will be, because I want to make some lineups too. So we'll break that game down tomorrow. But that's just I think already I'm getting excited about it. All right, I'll move on. Pittsburgh Steelers, they signed Ryan McCollum, center. Cool. Seattle Seahawks, they signed an offensive tackle, Raekwon O'Neal, and then they signed an outside guard, McClendon Curtis. Wow, that's an interesting name. McClendon Curtis. That's cool. Off of the Las Vegas practice squad. So they're trying to shore up their offensive line. I think they lost Abraham Lucas. So that's their offensive tackle who they lost and they placed him on injury. Jesus, I can't even speak right now. They placed him on injury reserve with that knee injury. So they definitely needed depth in their offensive line, hopefully. And this is somebody who... Okay. All right. Actually, I'll get back to that. Put a pin in that. Quickly, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Baker Mayfield, right shoulder was a full participant in practice. Jesus, what's going on with me right Defensive tackle Kalijah Cansey, calf, did not participate, and cornerback Carlton Davis, toe, did not participate either. And neither did Christian I. Okay, so nothing significant out of there, really. I don't really want to spend too much time on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's good that Baker Mayfield practiced because he actually looked good this week, and you were happy with the performance that Mike Evans gave you. Maybe you're a little worried if you were a Chris Godwin owner because it looked like Baker and Mike Evans shared a little bit more chemistry. But you were encouraged with what you saw from Baker, and maybe there's some hope for this team yet. You know, they did win that game. So, Tennessee Titans. Treylon Burks won't practice Wednesday due to a personal matter, but should be back Thursday, head coach Mike Vrabel reports. So interesting. And then wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins' ankle did not participate. So this is the big news out of Tennessee. Real quick, let's just look at DeAndre Hopkins. Let's see if we can find any actual specific report. So I like to look at these beat reporters. These local beat reporters. Let's actually see what our old boy Vrabel had to say.
In all different types of surfaces, stadiums, original artificial turf, and I think that the technology has gotten really good. I like our product. Again, I think it's a case-by-case issue.
Oh, this is his thoughts on turf. All right, sorry, y'all. I did not want to... No. I'm sorry. I don't care about that right now. I don't care really about... I mean, I would have cared if he was going to say that grass is better than turf and safer. Because that's true, right? I think most reports... Let's just Google it. I don't want you to have to take my word for it. Is grass safer than turf? Grass is significantly safer than turf. That's just the highlighted line from this report. So 2 hours ago, this is literally 2 hours ago, because this is actually a conversation that is relevant, that people are talking about it right now. So that's why I've kind of made up even though I've kind of had this feeling for the last probably decade based off of what I've just noticed in the NFL with random freak injuries that always seem to happen on turf, at least poorly made turf fields, right? Like MetLife, I think they even had to remake their turf multiple times because they've had a history of like Odell Beckham, Saquon Barkley. Like even before that, there were guys who were getting hurt on their turf. So it's like, you know, I think they actually got their turf relatively recently. So maybe I'm thinking about another stadium, but still, you know, turf is definitely a much more significantly dangerous. Let me say that the other way. Grass is clearly much more safer, significantly safer than turf. Okay, I'm just going to put that out there right now. Thank you for backing that up. 2 hours ago, this report from CBS Sports. That's great. Thank you very much. Moving on. Tennessee Titans star receiver DeAndre Hopkins didn't practice Wednesday because of an ankle injury. A surprise headline that the team's first injury report. A surprise that headlines the team's first injury report of week 2. So yes, super surprise, and that's a big deal because they're playing the Chargers, and the Chargers are desperate for a win. They lost against the Dolphins last week. They're going to play them tough, and you can't surf on turf. That is actually very true. And thank you for bringing that up, Taro, because I think that's worth throwing into this conversation. If you have ever in your life tried to surf on turf, you've had a bad time. And I'll leave it right there. Anyways, that was funny. The Titans are playing their home opener against the Chargers, like we said, and they lost to the Saints. So anyways, they need DeAndre Hopkins to play. If he plays, great, but he didn't practice, and that's not good. So we'll have to keep our eye on it. It clearly looks like there's not a lot of actual information about his ankle, but at the minimum, he didn't practice, and that sucks. All right. So, time to move on to what I've been alluding to this entire time. Seattle Seahawks. We saw how just utterly dumpstered they got by the Rams this last week. It was not pretty. It was Sad. I don't know if we can. Okay. I don't know if we can see a picture of Geno Smith that day, but this is something. He would look something like this, you know, just kind of sad. Because it was sad, right? He was sad that game. Like he played like shit. Let's see what his stats were week 1. When I'm looking at images. So his week 1 stats: 26 attempts, 16 completions, 112 yards, 4.3 average, 1 touchdown. He didn't have an interception, thank goodness. They lost that game to the Rams. And the Rams were without Cooper Kupp. Depleted secondary. Not really, a team we were looking at as a threat to do much this year. And they still lost. They still lost to them 30-13. My boy Geno lost to the Rams at home. I know the Seattle faithful were pissed that night. I would have been pissed. I would have been livid. It's like, how do you lose to our division, little brothers essentially? And even though the Rams actually are the last team in that division to have really done anything, but still, we're talking about nobody expected much from the Rams. Maybe that's why they did it. Maybe that's why. I don't know. My boy Geno's got to come back. He's got to show folks that he's not to be disrespected. Like, we saw him come alive last year. Let's see that happen again, right? Where's like Darth Geno at, right? Like, where's Geno Sith? You know what I'm saying? The guy with the hoodie who's like, coming out looking for revenge. Where's my boy Geno Sith at? You know what I'm saying? I want to see that. I want to see that ruthlessness. I want to see him just taking shots left and right. You got DK, you got Tylock, who looks a little, he doesn't look himself, but that's neither here nor there. We know how I feel about that. We'll keep, that's for another day. But he's got Jackson Smith and Jigba. He's got Noah Fant, who's a talented tight end that they really didn't even get involved last week. I guess they just couldn't. Maybe that just, he only passed 26 times. They got Kenneth Walker out of the backfield. They got my boy Charbo. They got dudes. So I need to see Geno Smith come alive. I need to see him, do everything but maybe murder some younglings. You don't need to do all that. I don't need to see you go that far. But maybe, let's see you slay some dudes on the field. How about that, Geno? Let's see some of that. Let's see some sparks, brother. Can we get some force lightning up in here? Can we get some Palpatine hands? I want to see some of that. All right. I'm taking this too far. But I've clearly I'm committed to the Geno Smith train, so much so that I've actually changed my team name in my main league to Revenge of the Smith. So he's, that I'm committed to Geno. I'm committed to Geno right there. I got to do it. You know what I mean? Like, they're going into Detroit this week. It's going to be a tough game. Detroit is definitely a better defense than they were last year. They're not the same. Their defense actually was Garbo last year. I think they are much better, much more improved. I mean, we saw it, granted, against like a depleted Kansas City Chiefs, offense and pass attack, but they played pretty damn well against Patrick Mahomes and the boys in Arrowhead. So Geno Smith's going to have his work cut out for him at Detroit, but I still believe, like I said, I still believe. Come on, Geno. I know you got it in you, brother. I know you got it in you. Just tap into the dark side just a little bit. Maybe we get some of those Sith eyes, you know what I'm saying? Just maybe wear the contacts if that helps. I probably don't do that because I actually think colored contacts decrease your vision significantly. But just come on, brother. We got to see some more from you, brother. Come on. All right. Let's see if there's anything else to take a look at. Oh, I did want to watch this press conference with Joey B. See if there's any nuggets we can pull from this here.
In a game like that, you take as much as you can from it.
Yeah.
Obviously the conditions weren't great.
Conditions were not great.
The main takeaway is you learn how to adapt to those conditions.
Got to adapt.
You have a game like that, and you reflect, and what could you have done better? And
definitely reflect.
Handle the conditions is the main thing.
All right. The conditions are the main thing. I don't know what kind of conditions he's talking about. Maybe he's talking about the field conditions. Maybe he's talking about the fact that he didn't practice, because that's definitely a condition that
they run the ball really well on offense, so it limits your possessions, and then their defense is tough, physical. They're very sound in their scheme. They do a great job of
sound in their scheme,
sending blitzes
at
you that you don't see on tape before.
Yeah, the Browns, they're a good team.
Great,
right?
Week-to-week game plan stuff. So you have to be able to adapt well to it.
You got to adapt. We were talking about that.
Good coach, good scheme. It's going to be a challenge.
Okay.
Is there anything you can do throughout the week in terms of trying to maybe get up to the speed you would have liked to be at, having missed so many?
He's asking if you want to get up to the speed you'd like to be at. How long is it going to take?
Learn from every rep.
Learn from every rep.
Very seriously. You can't have any wasted reps throughout the week, and we had a good day today.
Okay, good. You like hearing that.
Yeah, it depends. Depends on how you're feeling on the day. You still got to get healthy for Sunday.
Right.
And that's kind of the balance that everybody in the league has challenges with throughout the year.
Yeah, that's a bad question. I didn't hear the whole question, but I mean, just based off his answer, it's like, come on, bro.
To play in a health standpoint, and
of course he wants to be
making
healthy.
the most out of your reps and getting as many reps as possible.
One thing, I asked Coach Callahan, what's your like the week after a bad game? He said exactly the way you're like the week after a good game. Is that true? Is that how
He's as if he was exactly the same after a good game and a bad game?
I think so. Like I said, long season.
Consistent.
Long season. Everybody's got bad games. That's going to happen. And what makes you who you are.
Like the audio is super low here.
Makes you the player that you are is how you respond to games like that, and how consistent can you be afterwards.
One thing Brian also said on Monday, Joe, was that
how long is this freaking interview?
But in your own head.
Different scheme. Yeah.
The haircut. Where you
focus on
later on, go on a run. How do you go about fixing the first part of that being the slow start, like in future years?
Yeah, you go out and win a game. We gotta go out and get one this week. Like I said, we're focused on on being 1-0 every week.
Go out, win a game.
So this week we just gotta go be 1-0 and then take it from there.
Let's go. We gotta win.
Just following up on the haircut. Were you just kidding about being related to the bad game, or was that truly your motivation?
A little both.
Oh, he got a haircut because of a bad game. All right, get out of here, brother. Go get some rest, brother, man. All right, thanks for that. Cincinnati reporting on Facebook. Thank you very much. All right, so I think, let's see, are there any other crazy reports today? We saw this. Bears not ruling out Chase Claypool. I guess that's a report that we didn't really see much of on the other news site, but that's something that's interesting. Probably not super significant at this moment. Traylon Burks didn't even personal matters. We saw that. Kelsey's active. All right. Yeah, we already saw all these headlines. So there's not a whole lot left to discuss in terms of news. I do want to go through, I guess, just my own personal lineups on the stream just to see if there's some questions any of y'all want to ask with your own lineups while I'm doing this. But, I can also talk through my own personal feelings on why I'm playing a certain player or why I have certain players on my team. I'm just temper your expectations here with this lineup particularly. Again, I had to change my team name. I had to change it because of how bad my team played over this week. And now I'm 0-1. I'm bottom ranked. I'm ranked 12 out of 12. But it's Revenge of the Smith time, baby. I'm coming back, and I'm ready to just ball out of control for the rest of the season. So let's see how that is likely to happen. So my matchup against my opponent this week is my Uncle Kerry. And shout outs to Uncle Kerry if you're watching. What's good? Good luck this week, but not too good of luck because I really need this win. But it looks like he's projected to beat me still. And, he's got Justin Fields. He's got Javonte Williams, Brian Robinson. Bijan Robinson. This is Bijan. Not Brian Robinson Jr. from the Commanders. This is Bijan Robinson from the Falcons. So that's scary. This projection is low. I think he's going to double that, if anything, like he did last week. He has got DeAndre Hopkins, so that is something that he's going to have to keep an eye out for. If you're watching Uncle Kerry, definitely keep an eye on this situation. DeAndre didn't practice today. It could just be like a maintenance day, but he cropped up on the injury report with an ankle, so keep an eye on that. DK Metcalf is, like I said, I've got Geno going. I need this game to be a shootout. I'm hoping it's not all to DK, but I could see DK being a big part of that. I just hope that I'm wrong and that Ty Lock is completely fine. Like what we saw from last week with Ty Lock was just completely an aberration and it won't happen again, and it was just an off week. I don't know if that's the case. Like I said, I'm going to look into it. I've been looking into it. Hopefully we'll see anything that comes out of Seattle about Tyler Lockett. It's all positive, like he was flashing in practice or something like that. Nothing bad, hopefully. But it's very quiet on that front, unfortunately. Chris Olave at Carolina, that could be pretty gnarly. I could see him getting like 100+ yards and a touchdown that day because Carolina's defense is just depleted so hard right now. And New Orleans, I think they wanted to do more, even though they got the win. I think the Saints wanted to do more with last week and, with their offense. And so they're going to be looking to throw a lot more. Plus, they kind of have to because their running back situation is kind of rough. As you saw with Kendre Miller being out of practice, as well as let's actually just look at their... Yeah, so Kendre Miller's still out. Obviously, Alvin Kamara is still suspended, and Kirk Merritt was the guy that they signed from their practice squad. So literally, this is this is all it. This is it. It's Jamal Williams' show once again. But hopefully he looks a little better. But that said, again, I think they're gonna have to throw a bunch. So that might mean Chris Olave eats. Darren Waller, he'll be fine. He'll be fine. The maintenance day for practice from him. He's got Khalil Herbert in his flex. Let's see if there's anybody else he can flex. He's got Laporte. He's got Tank Bigsby, who got that touchdown last week. I don't know if those are even worth flexing. The DeAndre Hopkins thing, he's going to need another receiver. He doesn't have... I don't think Thielen is the guy he wants to put in there. And can you trust Kadarius Toney after last week? I guess he's going to have to take a shot on Kadarius, at least if DeAndre Hopkins doesn't play. And then he's got Justin Tucker and the 49ers D. So it's winnable for me. It's winnable for me. He still has some things he has to take care of on his lineup before the week is out, before we see those games start. But it's definitely like I got my work cut out for me in this matchup. But he's got some question marks as well. So it's anybody's game, actually, probably. At the same time, so we'll go through my guys. I've got Geno Smith. I've got A.J. Dillon. I've got Kenneth Walker. Okay, so I'm gonna look at it from here. I don't know. It's more visibly pleasing to me. If that makes sense. Geno Smith. I think it's gonna shoot out. I'm hoping it's gonna shoot out. As I mentioned earlier, though, Detroit's defense got better over the offseason. They looked pretty good against Kansas City on Thursday. So I don't think it's going to be that easy for Geno and the boys to cook. That said, I think if they have any hopes of winning this game, they're going to have to, because Detroit is a really good team. I think they're actually like a top 5 in the NFL potentially type team, at least if they continue to look as good as they did in that win. And it's not even like they looked that flashy. They just looked solid, right? They played smart. They did what they had to do when they had to do it. And so if you have a well-coached team that's playing at home, and like I always make this joke, playing at Detroit is not a home game for the Lions. That might have changed over the last couple of years because the Lions have actually got a little bit better. But typically there has really not been that much of a benefit. It's like playing on neutral ground, right? Maybe they get like 50% of the, advantage that they would normally get if it was an actual home game. But anyways, no, that's not necessarily the case anymore. I think the Detroit Lions actually have a great fan base that really does, appreciate that team. Not that they never did, but just that I think this is more excitement around this team right now. It's obviously a better team in general. And so, I had Jared Goff and Geno. I ended up dropping Jared Goff because I had to make room on my bench. I kept Devon A-Chain, and, we can maybe debate on whether that was a smart idea or not to keep Goff or to keep Geno instead of Goff, because Goff could easily light up this game, right? That's part of this shootout is if Jared Goff goes off as well. So maybe I chose the wrong side of this equation in terms of the Geno over Goff, but let's look at Geno's next games. So he's got Carolina the next week, and then he's got New York Giants the following week after that. Those are two super soft matchups. Love that. Then he's on bye. Sure, I'll probably have to make a choice at that point, for sure. Then he's got Cincinnati, tough matchup. Arizona, easy. Cleveland, tough. Baltimore, middle of the road. Washington, pretty middle of the road. Then at LA again. Redemption, at least at LA playing the Rams again. But we need to see more from him if that matchup's going to go positively. But again, I think this is a big game for Geno Smith. This is like my all-in moment with Geno, right? I've changed my whole team, logo and everything to basically he's my mascot. I am all in on Geno. And please, Geno, please don't let me down, brother. Please don't let me down. I know you're going to do your best. Anyways, moving on to A.J. Dillon. A.J. Dillon, it's interesting. We didn't actually see any report on this particular, maybe it's because this was like a yesterday's news type situation, but Aaron Jones did not practice again. He sat out practice today. Aaron Jones, they're still evaluating his hamstring that saw him leave last week against the Browns or against the Bears. So that's about all that we know, just that he's dealing with this hamstring injury, and that Wednesday is upon us, blah blah blah. Okay, the Atlanta Falcons. Okay, so did not practice. Aaron Jones the hamstring. So there's not. When you hear do not practice or did not practice, and there's no other report, there's no other information. Typically, that is a more positive sign, especially because the initial report was he felt he could have gone back in the game. It was like his hamstring bit him, right? He felt he had a little bite on his hamstring. So he felt like good enough to go back in that game, but they wanted to be cautious with him. They were winning. They won that game pretty decisively. And so they were like, nah, we're going to ease up on you and pull you from the game, shut you down. He's not practicing. But again, they haven't really said much else. I'm leaning on the side of he's more on the okay side than this is like we have to be super worried about this. He might miss this week, potentially, right? And that's okay. I think you're fine with that as long as he comes back the following week 100% healthy. So if that's not the case, if he doesn't come back the following week 100% healthy, then you need to, if you're the Packers and you're like, if this is like a 2-3 week injury situation with a hamstring, are we considering maybe putting him on IR quickly just to have those minimum 4 weeks he's out, free up that roster spot for us? We know he's going to be rehabbing at minimum for 4 weeks and he'll come back 100% healthy. He might be a little older. I think he's 28, so he's maybe even just 27. But still, like that's something that we absolutely need to. He's 28, so we absolutely need to keep an eye on that. Especially if you're the Aaron Jones owner, and even if you're the AJ Dillon owner. That's why I brought this up, because this absolutely impacts AJ Dillon. clearly, right? I mean, A.J. Dillon would see a huge increase in his workload if Aaron Jones is unable to go on Sunday. And he's playing against Atlanta, which, let's see what the Atlanta... Guess you got to be specific. Atlanta... Why can't I see the box score here? Okay, so let's see how the Panthers' run stats were against Atlanta. So they actually rushed very well. Miles Sanders had 18 carries for 72 yards, and Chuba had 9 carries for 60 yards. And they basically combined for almost like 180 yards of rushing total. 150 yards of rushing total. So that's not nothing. So you're telling me that, you know, if A.J. Dillon sees half of that alone, that's already 75 yards, right, of rushing that we can maybe expect to see from him that game. And I'm taking that all day long, right? I'm more than happy to take that, and he might even get a touchdown. Jordan Love is proving to be a pretty decent quarterback. I'm not sold 100% on it yet. You know, he had a pretty, I wouldn't say easy matchup against the Bears last week at Soldier Field, but the Bears aren't like a super scary defense. And, you know, Jordan Love probably doesn't fear the Bears in the similar fashion that he would fear like another NFL team, simply because he saw Aaron Rodgers, you know, who was like his big bro, his like mentor, basically just own the Bears. That's all he's ever seen, was just Aaron Rodgers just completely own the Bears. So that might have factored into it. That team just knows that, you know, how to win in that situation and how to win in Soldier Field anyways. So, you know, maybe we temper our expectations with Jordan Love. But as far as A.J. Dillon, I really like his opportunity this week. And, you know, obviously if if Aaron Jones is even half, you know, I guess half healthy and he's playing, I still would say I'm going A.J. Dillon this week over, I mean, like, I don't have anybody else. Maybe Devon A-Chain, depending on what happens with Mostert this week. Like I said, we'll keep an eye on that. Kenneth Walker. Nothing came out this week about his groin. It looks like he's back in practice, and we're great. We're good with that news. Let's actually see if we can find any braces for another battle with Seahawks. Okay, so there's no injury news for Kenneth Walker, so that's fine. That's good, actually, because he was dealing with that groin that cropped up late in the preseason. Now he's clearly one game removed from having played through that, and there has been no real setback. So yeah, I think that's positive news, and he looked good. He rushed for 64 yards and even had 4 catches for 3 yards, which is hilarious that he only had 3 yards receiving on 4 catches. But still, the positive thing is he looked good. He's progressing in a, you know, upside in the, you know, positive direction. So lock and load Kenneth Walker. I think I'm going to temper my expectations, though. Again, that's a good team, and the run defense is actually pretty tough. But A.J. Brown at Minnesota, that's going to be a shootout. Looking so forward to that game tomorrow night. I think A.J. Brown, he's going to get 2 touchdowns tomorrow. Like, they're going to have to score that many points. They're going to have to score 5 touchdowns to win this game, and A.J. is going to get 2 of them. I think so. T. Higgins, Baltimore, Sunday. This is the web redemption, right? This is literally, we just saw Joey B talking to the press. He's locked in. I was stating earlier that Joey B has a full week. That's all it takes sometimes. Just 1 week of practice under your belt, and you're a whole different player, right? You feel actually prepared. You're not scrambling out on the field looking lost or trying to, you know, play catch up essentially the entire game. You're more confident in just everything from the outset. So yes, I believe that translates to success with T. Higgins. And I mean, I love T. Higgins already. Yeah, I'm a Bengals fan, but also because he's one of the most talented receivers in the NFL. I truly believe that. He's like top 20 when you talk about just talent alone, maybe top 15 talent alone. maybe top 10 if you're talking about just talent. I don't know. I don't want to keep, bumping him up, but he's literally like A.J. Brown-esque in that respect. And I love having them both on my team. I just want to see more from them, going forward, hopefully. And I think T. Higgins definitely has a good day today or this week. And yeah, looking forward to that. Garrett Wilson. This is going to be a rough matchup. And I am debating benching him, actually. Just straight up. I know he's super duper talented, but I think it's where I have to draw my line is when they're playing a team like Dallas. We saw what Dallas did against the Giants, and it wasn't pretty. And I would like to think Danny Dimes is actually a better quarterback than Zach Wilson. I mean, they paid Danny Dimes $40 million a year. I would hope he's a better quarterback than Zach Wilson. If we see Zach Wilson come out here into Dallas and just start cutting him up, I don't know what I would think at that point. Is that more of an indictment on like Danny Dimes, or is that like, holy shit, where did this kid Zach Wilson come from? I guess the key was just Aaron Rodgers being there. But no, I don't think so. Like from what we saw, the touchdown that Zach Wilson threw should have been a pick by all rights, by all means. Like should have just been a pick. And Garrett Wilson, actually, we saw that highlight. He just stopped him from the defender from catching that ball and took it for himself. That was like a Moss 2.0 play, basically. So anyway, I'm actually going to go ahead and play Puka instead. That is my safe play here, even though, okay, so I might pump the brakes on Puka. They're playing San Francisco, and it's at home. It's at SoFi, but I don't really care about that. It's San Francisco. We saw what they did to the Steelers last week. It was big oofs all around. I am not a Steelers fan, but I'm a Bengals fan, obviously, and I would love watching the Steelers squirm and, just fall flat anytime it happens, because it, typically doesn't really happen too often, at least over the last decade or so. But anytime it does happen, I'm stoked. And so I go through all that to say San Francisco beat the brakes off of Pittsburgh. They made Tomlin look like a different coach. After literally the post-game press conference, Tomlin looked shook. Like I've never seen Tomlin look that shaken. He was literally like a different person. He took complete ownership of, the first thing he said was bad coaching, which is him. Basically, he's taking ownership of that game on his own there to protect maybe his team. But like I said, I've never seen Tomlin look like that, Mike Tomlin. So San Francisco, great defense, great team. It's a division game, so like I don't like division games in terms of fantasy, for fantasy purposes. Division games across the NFL, there are sort of exceptions to this rule, but typically interdivision matchups are low scoring because those teams know each other. They're more familiar with one another, and maybe they play each other harder. It's more chippy, whatever the case may be. Typically speaking, interdivision matchups, depending on the division, of course, are pretty low scoring. So I think this game is going to be relatively low scoring, at least for the Rams, because San Francisco does have a really good defense. So I might end up benching Puka now that I think about it. But like, I don't have a lot of options here. Like, you know what I mean? Am I going to just go ahead and play Garrett Wilson? It's between these two. They don't have great matchups either way, but I do have Jaden Reed here, who I could be crazy, and just do something insane like this, and just play Jaden Reed because I still have him for some reason. But I might do that. We'll see. This is not a final lineup. I think I'll have to look at this on Sunday morning and tinker with it a little bit. But yeah, that's what that's looking like. I think that covers it for the news and for kind of the fun stuff I wanted to do. We'll jump back on tomorrow before the Thursday night game and break that game down. And so that should be fun. I'll do some lineups as well. But once again, I appreciate y'all for watching. Like, for real. Thank you so much for tuning in. And if you're watching this after the fact, either on YouTube or on Twitch as a VOD, I appreciate you as well. So please keep tuning in. And, you know, if you do want to leave a comment or leave a suggestion as to like maybe when a better time would be, so you want to watch live, you know, I'm trying to maybe be a little flexible on this. I want to see what the better times are to stream to get a more engaged audience, as well as to just be more accessible to everyone out there who wants to tune in and participate. So yeah, like we're still figuring this out. It's a work in progress, but either way, thanks again, y'all, for tuning in. And this has been Game Time Ty, and I'll talk to y'all tomorrow before the Thursday night game. Anyways, we'll see y'all later. Peace.